Hi there, this is Judith White, developer of the course, and perhaps your instructor. We'll see. We're going to look into our first empirical post-positivist theory that deals with intrapersonal communication. What do we mean by intrapersonal? We mean within ourselves. And very simply, this theory talks about what happens when an interaction with another person violates our internal expectations of what constitutes a proper communication encounter. Of course, there's more to it than that, but that's it in a nutshell. And the name sort of gives it away, right? We have the expectations and they're violated by a situation. How are we going to handle that? What theory explains it? It also deals with nonverbal behavior. It could be what someone said, but more than likely, it might be the nonverbal messages they're sending. So when communicative norms are violated, we may think, oh, that's good or that's bad, favorable or unfavorable, depending on our perception of the one who's violating our expectations. As you see here, we talk about, and all the slides are going to be in this form through the rest of the book. We're going to have the theory at a glance. We're going to talk about how the theory might be put into practice, which might help you manage your expectations of someone else's behavior. We may or may not talk about putting it into action. And we're going to talk about some of the features and considerations of a theory. What are some of the assumptions? And then we may go into more detail. So with this particular theory, we're going to look a lot at space relations, and we're going to look at what are called proxemic zones. This comes from the word proximity, and it's pretty simple to understand. It's what we think of as our personal space. Someone being very close to us is in our intimate space, generally up to 18 inches. Then from 18 inches to 4 feet might be considered a personal distance. From 4 to 12 feet would be a social distance. I believe during the coronavirus pandemic, it was 6 feet. We were supposed to stay 6 feet from each other, and public distance is 12 feet and greater. So depending on the nature of the relationship, how close we let someone get to us will fall into one of these proxemic zones. Another feature is territoriality, meaning things that you consider your exclusive domain. For example, perhaps you're at work and someone comes over and sits on top of your desk and leans in to talk to you. You might feel that they are violating your exclusive domain. Secondary territories are things, an area, an object that has a personal connection. For example, someone might pick up a pen. I'm pretty crazy about special pens that I have. They mean something to me. They were given to me by someone I care about. I paid a lot of money for it. I don't want someone else touching it. That'd be a secondary territory. So we may try to prevent people from violating our territoriality, or we may simply react to it. Some of the assumptions, I think it's pretty common sense. I mean, based on our growing up, our education, we have certain expectations about conversations with another person. We may have expectations before the interaction and during the interaction. And these expectancies drive our reactions within these interactions. Of course, expectations are learned. Some cultures like to stand much more closely together to talk to each other than others. Generally, in people from Western Europe, and I'm thinking about England and Germany, they may like to stand further from each other when they talk. People from Southern Europe, people from Spain and Italy may want to be closer when they have a conversation. When you see nonverbal behavior, you're going to make predictions about it. And then our expectations may lead to us deriving particular consequences, such as cognitive arousal, our brains are aroused, or physical arousal. We may tense up, we may back away, we may shove the other person, get away from me, you're too close. So expectancies have consequences. And some of these are based on certain thresholds. One of them they call the threat threshold. At what point do I begin to feel uncomfortable? This may depend on your gender. For example, I may be more comfortable with a female friend or acquaintance coming closer to me than with a male friend or acquaintance. Then they talk about how are you going to assess an unexpected behavior and how are you going to react. This is a chart that talks about how expectancies are shaped. And again, they mention gender, personality, age, appearance, reputation. So those are individual factors. Relational factors may depend on my prior history with someone, differences in status, attraction. If someone likes you, but you don't like them, they may be coming closer and closer to you, and you may be moving away. And contextual factors. So I believe these PowerPoints, they're intended to summarize this very dense text that we have. For example, the chapter on expectancy violation goes from page 67 to page 81. That's 14 pages. It's a lot of text. I think as you move forward, if you look at these PowerPoints, they'll help to simplify what you're learning. They're intended to have the major points. They're also intended to boil it down in common sense terms. Expectancy violation theories means that you have certain expectations about the nonverbal behaviors of particular people and speech communicative relationships. If these are violated, you will react in certain ways. So that's our first hardcore theory chapter. We have 26 more to go. So settle in. I'll be recording a short podcast for each one of these. As always, let me know if you have a question. Read the text, pay attention to the examples given, and I think you'll come out of this course with just a really good understanding of the different theories available to you when evaluating, crafting, assessing communicative acts. Thanks for listening.